Welcome guys back to another video in the channel. Today we're doing Premier League predictions match day 34 and we've got some very interesting games here, the likes of Arsenal versus Leicester and Brighton versus Liverpool. It should be a very interesting match day, so let's get straight into it. First game is Crystal Palace versus Chelsea. Again, this can be a very interesting game because both sides are very unexpected times because they don't have consistent games. That is proved because Crystal Palace did lose 3-0 to Leicester City, a very humiliating defeat, and to be honest, that game was down to individual mistakes, not doing very well. Iheanacho, Jamie Vardy and Jamie Vardy scoring twice. For Chelsea, they bounced back from a 3-2 loss against West Ham to beat Watford 3-0, which is very good for them. 3 goals for them, including Olivier Giroud, Willian and Ross Barkley scoring for them, so that was very good for Chelsea. Chelsea are in the hunt for a Champions League position, and because of that, they are in 4th position, 57 points, only 1 point behind Leicester. So if Leicester lose and they win, they could leapfrog Leicester, which would be very big for them. For Crystal Palace, they are I don't know what they're going for, because they could get Europe because they are not far behind with it, because they're only 3 points behind 10th in Tottenham, but I don't think Crystal Palace are aiming for anything. I think they're just trying to secure mid-table and do as best as they can to the rest of the season. So for Crystal Palace, they're not aiming for much, but for Chelsea, they're aiming for quite a bit. So it'll be quite important for them to get a result. So that is why I'm going to give Chelsea a 2-0 win in this one. Continuing on, we're going to go with the next game, which is Watford versus Norwich. Again, this is a huge game in the relegation fight because both teams are really down there in terms of points, because looking at Norwich, they're 21 points, still 6 points behind the likes of AFC Bournemouth and Aston Villa, so it'll be very crucial for them to try and pick up 3 points. But for Watford, again, they are looking like they're getting safer and safer, but again, they're still 1 point behind Aston Villa and AFC Bournemouth, so they need to get some wins under their belt, and a win here against Norwich will be huge for them to drive them away from the relegation zone. They're only 3 points behind West Ham, so if they do win and maybe West Ham lose by a significant goal margin, they could leapfrog them, but it'll be hard to see what happens. I think Watford will win this one. They got much more quality, which is why I'm going to give Watford actually a 1-0 win in this one. Next game is Arsenal versus Leicester. I have done a separate video for this game, so please go check that out on my channel. I'm not going to say much about it other than I did predict an Arsenal 3-1 win in this one. So the next game we're going to be looking at is West Ham versus Burnley. Again, West Ham, they really need to try and pick up some points here, but Burnley have been very good. For West Ham, they did draw 2-2 to Newcastle. Again, they're not picking up points, West Ham. They really need to be beating the likes of Newcastle if they do want to get forward, and I think Burnley is going to be quite a challenge for them, because Burnley, looking at their last game, they're actually doing quite well, but they did have a 1-1 draw against Sheffield United, again, which is quite good because Sheffield United have been really good this season, but you'd expect Burnley to probably win in this one, looking at Burnley's form. But I think it's going to be quite an interesting game between the two sides. Burnley, as I said, they're doing quite well in 9th position, actually 2 points behind Sheffield United, who they drew against, actually above Tottenham Hotspur at the time of recording, and West Ham are only 5 points behind Brighton, Hove, Albion, so a win here for West Ham will be crucial, but I think I'm going to give it a West Ham win. I just think West Ham are going to win this one, which is why I'm going to give them a 2-1 win. Next game is Sheffield United versus Wolves. Again, this is a huge game for the two sides because both teams are actually chasing European football. For Wolves, they are in 6th position, only 3 points ahead of Arsenal. So if Sheffield United were to pick up a point here, Arsenal could capitalise, as they have Leicester City, and which is a much winnable game for Arsenal. Sheffield United, however, they are 4 points behind Wolves, so it's a big game, a big 6-pointer sort of game, and it will be very interesting to see what happens. For Wolves, it was a 2-0 loss to Arsenal. And for Sheffield United, as I said earlier, it was a 1-1 draw against Burnley, which again wasn't a great performance. John Egan had to equalise late for Sheffield United to get them a point there, so yeah, it's going to be very hard for Sheffield United. But again, I just think Wolves will win this one. They are a better team, lots of pace, like Adama Traore would want to get on the score sheet, which is why I'm going to give Wolves actually a 3-0 win in this one. Next game in the Premier League is Manchester City versus Newcastle. For Manchester City, it was a very shock defeat to Southampton at the weekend, which was very unlucky for them because Che Adams scored his first Premier League goal for the club, which was again, as I said before, was a very shocking defeat, and Manchester City will be looking to bounce back from it. For Newcastle, it was a 2-2 draw against West Ham. The scorers in the Newcastle side were Miguel Almiron and Jandro Shelvey. So Newcastle will be looking to build on that. They would have expected to beat West Ham, but it just wasn't to be. So looking at Newcastle in the table, they are sitting in 12th, 1 point away from Everton and only 2 points away from the likes of Tottenham. So European place, if they keep going, keep pushing on, and maybe with Manchester City, they could be in the race to do so. For Manchester City, as I said, they're sitting second, and they're not really chasing anything. They're not going to drop into third or anything, so they're just trying to consolidate their place in second position, which is just how it's going to be. So for Manchester City, I think they'll bounce back and they will get a 2-0 win in this one. Next game in the Premier League is Brighton versus Liverpool. Again, for Brighton, they will be looking to keep going, keep getting wins so they don't get in a threat of relegation. In the last game, they did actually beat Brighton 1-0, and the scorer in that game was Leonardo Trossard. So again, looking at Brighton in the table, they are sort of in a relegation battle, 5 points away from West Ham and another 3 points away from Watford, so 8 points behind Watford, who are in 17th, and so 9 points behind Aston Villa, who are in the relegation zone. So Brighton are looking quite safe here, but again, if they do get any sort of result against Liverpool, it will be a positive because Liverpool are the champions, and they didn't have the best performance against Aston Villa. It was quite a boring game, but nevertheless, they did get a 2-0 win courtesy of goals from Sadio Mane and Curtis Jones coming on the pitch and scoring, which is very good after he signed a new long-term deal with the club. So I do expect Liverpool to comfortably win this game against Brighton, which is why I'm going to give them a 3-1 win in this one. Next game in the Premier League is Everton versus Southampton. This is before the Tottenham versus Everton game, so I can't really give much of a detailed analysis on that game, but I have to go off what Southampton did against Manchester City, which was actually a shocking win courtesy of a goal from Che Adams, as I have said earlier. For Southampton, that leaves them 13th in the table, level on points with Newcastle, 1 point behind Everton. So this is a huge game for Southampton to try and leapfrog Everton. So Everton will be quite scared looking at this game because Southampton are a very formidable team and they could cause some real problems when they're on their game. Looking at Everton's last result, it was actually a 2-1 win against Leicester City, obviously very strong for them, and the Everton will be looking to build on Tottenham Hotspur in that game they have on the Monday night. So this Southampton game, I think it will be a draw, which is why I'm going to give this a 2-2 draw. I think the teams will draw with Danny Ings getting on the score sheet and the likes of Richarlison scoring for Everton. Next game in the Premier League is AFC Bournemouth versus Tottenham Hotspur. Now, AFC Bournemouth, they actually had a quick start against Manchester United but soon fell away, and we did have an expected result, which was a Manchester United smashing of, I think, 5-2, that was the score. But for Tottenham, they haven't played against Everton yet, so it's hard to give a judgment, but looking at the way they're playing with a 3-1 loss against Sheffield United, they are doing very poorly, so they will be trying to look to bounce back, because looking at Tottenham at the table, they are in 10th position before the Everton game, and Everton could leapfrog them, which is quite big, and they have so many teams catching up on them, so they'll be, I don't know how they'll be looking to approach this game, but they really need to get a win, Tottenham, because the pressure is going to mount and they could drop out of a European place altogether. But I think they will win this game against Bournemouth, which is why I'm going to give it a 2-0 win. Next game is Aston Villa versus Manchester United. And now for Manchester United, they are looking very, very good and looking to consolidate a place in the Champions League. And that was proven in a 5-2 battering of Bournemouth, even though they went a goal behind courtesy to Junior standing last. But for Aston Villa, they did lose 2-0 to Liverpool. Aston Villa were very good in that game, most of it, but I think the quality did show for Liverpool and they did go out winners. But Aston Villa, they really need to pick up some points now, because they are 27 points, 1 point behind Watford, and they really need to start getting some wins and some points under the belt if they want to try and challenge and stay in the Premier League for Aston Villa. But for Manchester United, I think I can't see past them in this game, and I really do think they're going to win this one quite easily, which is why I'm going to give Manchester United actually a 1-0 win. I do think it's going to be tight. I think Aston Villa are going to be very rugged and not going to let Manchester United pass, but I'll still give Man United a 1-0 win. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe, and please share the content, and please see what more content do you want to see from this channel, and please subscribe. See you guys in the next one. Bye bye.